Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection, week 198, I think it is. Am I getting that right? I really think it's 198. Hmm. That is, yep, 198. Here we are, almost at 200, which is crazy because I remember 100 like it was yesterday. So excited to be here with all of you. We're going to jump into so many of these amazing questions that I've been getting specifically on the topic of intimacy, mostly physical intimacy. And so, if you're listening with like people around, you might want to put on some headphones or earbuds or go into a different room because I will not hesitate to answer these questions as they need to be answered. I seem to have just gotten a bug bite on my neck. Just seeing it, and now it's itching me because I'm seeing it on the screen. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I have so many different questions that have been coming in, such good questions. I want to start out by just saying that so often what happens when we have these kinds of questions is that we don't know who to ask them to. And we don't even know if it's a question. Like maybe we just think this is the way it's supposed to be, or we think, oh my gosh, it's not like that for anyone else. Like questions like, where maybe you feel like you can't ask the question because, you know, I'm the only one with this question. It's too embarrassing. Or we just think that this is the way it's supposed to be, right? We think, okay, I guess it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be painful or awkward, or it's not supposed to feel good, or maybe we think that whatever's bothering us is just a problem in our marriage, or we think it says something about us. And so all these different reasons can be why we don't ask questions, besides the fact that we don't know who to ask them to, or maybe we asked them but the person wasn't comfortable with it. I cannot tell you how many times I have come across people who are presenting as, I'm going to answer your questions on these topics, who then seem actually uncomfortable answering these questions. I don't know if any of you have had that experience. So if you've had an experience where you went to ask someone a question and then you felt like, oh my gosh, they seem uncomfortable or they made you feel uncomfortable, that's not a problem with you or the question that you asked. That's just because a lot of times people are uncomfortable answering these questions. They're uncomfortable with the question. And so it's important to know that there is a space and that there are avenues to answer questions. And I'm happy, I'm so honored with the trust that so many women have been giving me by asking these questions, and I'm excited to answer them for you. So like I was saying before, I have them all in a document. I'm not even sure which ones I'm going to answer today, but we're just going to jump right in. How does that sound? Okay, so here we go. The one we're answering today, or at least we're starting with today. Here we go. Can you address the issue of mismatched libido, where the woman is the one with higher libido and feeling rejected? This is not uncommon and rarely ever addressed. The first thing I'm going to say is that you are 100% right, that this is not uncommon. It does happen. And it's not often addressed. And I will start out by saying that that's because often it is the other way, that it is the man who has more interest, has a higher libido, has more just like natural, spontaneous desire. And so that's why it's talked about a lot, because women, that's like the topic that a lot of women want to deal with, and we'll talk about that in other questions. But we do have to acknowledge that there are couples where it's the opposite, where the woman has a higher libido, and there's nothing wrong with that. First and foremost, it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with your relationship. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with your husband. It's a very real thing. I've seen it. I may have even mentioned it 2 weeks ago. I've seen it across the board that here's the reality: every couple is going to be mismatched in some way, because, and this is such an important thing to remember in general, no two people are exactly the same. So you're always going to have someone who has a higher libido than the other. And by the way, that can also change at different times in your life. So it may be that at certain periods, your husband is more interested, and then at other periods you're more interested. And there also are a lot of questions that come up in terms of, and I think there's even some on the in this document that I'll even address now, where sometimes a woman will say, my husband has stopped initiating. He saw that like, I was barely like he was frustrated that I wasn't interested, so he stopped initiating. And now what do I do because he barely initiates? So that can also come up where and I guess that is a separate question. So I'll talk about that separately. But let's talk about this one, okay? What do you do when you are mismatched and the woman is the one with the higher libido? So first and foremost, acknowledge that it's normal, acknowledge that it happens. Acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with your husband. Always so important to know that it's normal. And then what you get to work through, and this is what I was talking about last week, how a lot of times there can be underlying stories and underlying beliefs that can be getting in the way. If you're finding that when you're in the mood, if you're struggling, if there's something that holds you back from letting your husband know that, if there's something that holds you back from letting him know, from initiating, that would be something to get curious with, right? Are you telling yourself that you shouldn't be the one initiating? Are you telling yourself that that means he doesn't love you? Are you telling yourself that that means he doesn't want you? All of that could be very much not the reality. It's just that he may not have that same thing we'll tell women who have it on the other way, right? That he may just not have that same spontaneous desire that you have. And so either you get to arouse it, you get to initiate and give yourself the permission to do that, and if there are times that you do initiate and he really just doesn't, he's not interested, he says no, he turns you down, then you want to look at two things. Number one, are you sure that you're actually being clear that you're initiating? Because a lot of times, women, because it can feel so vulnerable to women to initiate, because of whatever stories might come up for us, as I was saying before, because it can feel so vulnerable to initiate, women actually often think that they're being very clear, that they're offering themselves, that they're interested. And then later, and then they'll feel like their husband rejected them. Where if you ask the husband, he might be like, "You were initiating? I had no idea." Right? Where we may not be as clear about our invitations as that are as we think we're being, right? Maybe your husband doesn't realize that you're initiating. So to be a little bit more forthright. Now, you may have learned that women aren't supposed to like be the one to like outright demand or initiate sex. The actual halacha is that a woman should be careful in terms of like saying to her husband, I want you to sleep with me right now. I command you to pleasure me right now. That kind of thing a woman needs to be careful with because she would be she would basically be obligating her husband to a mitzvah that he may not be able to do because it's his mitzvah to pleasure her. It's his mitzvah to bring her to sexual satisfaction. And if he can't do that, then she just obligated him in a mitzvah that he wasn't able to fulfill, whether because he's not able to in the moment or because he tries and she just doesn't get there. It's a similar thing to how you don't invite someone to a bris, right? Because it's a big mitzvah to go to a bris. So we don't say, please come to my bris, but we do let the person know that a bris is happening. And that is fine. That is good, right? Otherwise, how can they do the mitzvah? So while there is an idea of not like, blatantly like obligating your husband and not blatantly being like, come, now we are like being like very like explicit, we also have to make sure that the husband knows that there is an opportunity for him to do the mitzvah, for him to know that you are interested, for him like it's important to make sure that he's aware of it, cuz just letting someone know, oh, like I'm taking the baby to the shul on Monday morning. It might be like, well, what are you telling me? Right? As opposed to, there's a bris. We're making a bris, right? Now, you don't say, please come, but you do let them know that it's happening. So we do want to make sure that we're being clear in our language, in our actions, right? And usually we have to go a notch. above or 2 or 5 above what we think is clear because we're often much less clear than we think we are. And then also working through whatever you make it mean. If your husband does say no at the time, right? Are you taking it as a rejection? Are you taking it as there's something wrong? Are you taking it mean that he doesn't want you rather than acknowledging like he may have his own stuff going on. It may be hard for him to know that like there's more interest on your side than he has. Maybe he feels emasculated in that, but that has nothing to do with you. That's his own stuff, right? And not make it mean anything about you or your relationship. Does that resonate? I'd love to hear your comments on that. And I'm going to go on to the next question. Of course, there's so much more we could say about any of this. I'm just giving like little snippets of it. We could go into much more depth, which I do in my Absolutely Irresistible program, which there's now a wait list. Like you're welcome. I'll be telling you more about it in the future. I'm revamping it and putting it together where I go much deeper into it, but I do want to give you as much as I can to show you that there are answers to these questions. Okay, my husband's love language, as she wrote here, is obviously physical touch, and it is true that a lot of men's love language is physical touch, and I'll talk a little bit in the moment. And I would love to spend more time with him without having to be physically intimate, but he doesn't seem so interested. Even when he's finally sitting with me, I find he's either busy with other things or it lasts 2 minutes. How can I get him more interested to spend emotional time with me? This is such a good question. And I think it's really a common frustration that women have of like, my husband's is physical touch, my husband's love language, but I want to spend more emotional time together. How can we do that? And I think the most important thing, first and foremost, is not to villainate. Is that the word? I'm saying it wrong. Villainize our husband for physical touch being their language. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The whole idea of love languages, a lot of people now use that phrase and don't actually really know what it's about. I've heard it used in a very like, oh, we don't have the same love language, like our relationship is doomed. Whereas the whole idea of love languages, this pastor Gary Chapman wrote this book called The Five Love Languages, and there's I think even a Jewish version at this point that he wrote together with a rabbi. I don't remember exactly, but there's many versions of the book out now. And what's very fascinating about his theory is that he acknowledged that people give and receive love in different ways. Um, and what that means is not that you have to find someone who speaks the same love language, and if they don't, you're doomed. No, his whole point was to invite people to acknowledge that many times when they feel like they're not getting the love that they want, they don't feel loved, or they feel like their spouse doesn't get that they love them, it's because they're speaking different love languages. So you just got to learn how to interpret and speak the other person's love language as well and not make it bad or wrong. It's not, "Ugh, well, his love language is physical touch." It's allowing physical touch to be a form of connection in your relationship and also inviting your love language into the relationship. So in this case, if it's emotional time, which is usually referred to as um hold on, I have it. Physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and quality time. There we go, quality time. So it sounds like if you would like more of that quality time, which includes the like conversations and really spending like that emotional time together, what you can do is a few things. First and foremost, you want to ensure that when you are having that time with him, even if it's just for 2 minutes, even if it's just every once in a while, even if it's not exactly the way you'd want it to be, to allow yourself to receive it. Allow yourself to feel loved by it and thank him for it. Let him know how good it makes you feel. Don't just tell him it feels good. Feel good about it. Allow it to fill you up and be very careful with thinking, oh, it doesn't count because he's only doing it for me. Why? It actually counts more because he's doing it for you, because he loves you and he cares about you. So thank him, let it fill you up, communicate what it is that matters to you, And also, allow for there to be that reciprocity where his love language matters and your love language matters, and invite him into that, right? I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to share with you. Maybe not necessitating him to share, or necessitating it to look a certain way, but giving space for what that would look like. I talk a lot about this in my programs, the idea of how to create quality time together in and out of the bedroom that you can enjoy together, even though it's not going to look exactly the way that it's likely not going to look. It's not going to look exactly the way you're picturing it, because what we're picturing is some image, is some, whether it's from a movie or something we once saw or something we just envision, that's not like true to our actual life, right? Or maybe it happened once, but then we're expecting it to happen again. We're expecting it to be totally mutual. We're expecting it to look a certain way. We're expecting him to say a certain thing. Your husband is not ever going to match up to that vision in your head of what you think he should be, because he's a real person and life is happening, right? The reality of life. And so it's important to receive what is happening, allow it to mean something to you, allow yourself to invite it, to ask for it, and allow yourself to also receive and even give his love language. So you're creating a mutual relationship of giving and receiving each other's ways of showing love. How does that sound? The chat is really quiet, ladies who are here live, and anyone who's listening to a recording also, you're welcome to put your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your takeaways into the chat, whether you're listening on the website or you're listening on YouTube or Spotify. I guess if you're listening over the phone, you can send me an email and let me know what's coming up for you. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and what is coming up for you as I'm answering these questions. Um, okay. Can you, this I answered. It looks like I put it here twice. Okay. Question, is climax an achievable goal for most people? Ooh, this is such a good question. And I would say that it's very important to look at like this idea of it being a goal. I would say that climax is the a physical reality that can happen in terms of relations, that happens in terms of pleasure. And yes, it is an achievable goal, right? It is something that naturally is like within the physical experience of pleasure when it comes to intimacy. Here's the thing. Many people, I'm not even just going to say women, because it's actually also a lot of men. Many people have unrealistic expectations of what will create climax, of what climax is about. And I'm not going to hold back, okay, ladies? So if you need to listen again with a headset, do that. But many, and I will use real language and I'm going to be real here, so I hope that, you know, that's something that you that you're here because you want to know. So basically, many people are of the belief that climax will happen from intercourse alone. Some people think that that's what physical intimacy is. It's just intercourse. Or they believe that in the end of the day, that the 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 intercourse is what will create the climax. And the reality is that while that may work for some women, it may, and if it does, that's great. For a large number of women, intercourse itself is just not going to bring that level of pleasure. And that's not anything wrong or bad. Physical intimacy is a more than just the intercourse. Intercourse is just a part of physical intimacy, and a big part of physical intimacy. Actually, a lot of what the mitzvah is about is making sure that the woman has physical pleasure. And for many women, the physical pleasure doesn't just come from intercourse. It comes from being touched. It comes from being caressed, different parts of her body, especially her intimate parts. And as I'm saying this, you get to acknowledge what comes up for you as I'm saying it. Okay? Is it is it something that you push away? Is it something that you feel isn't good, isn't okay, isn't holy? Is it something that you're uncomfortable receiving? Is it something that is hard for you to feel pleasure? Is it something that feels too much? or you have a hard time telling your husband what it is that you like or you want. Many women, and I see this in the questions, so I'll get to it in specific questions, but I just want to point out first and foremost that feeling pleasure, feeling good, your husband pleasuring you through touching you, caressing you, kisses, all different types of touch. Specifically, I'm going to talk about touch specifically in intimate areas is holy. It's not bad, it's not wrong, it's not gushmias or animalistic or any of that. It's the mitzvah of ona. It's the mitzvah of a woman having physical pleasure. Hashem made our bodies in a certain way that there are certain things that feel very good. And a lot of times women, because maybe they weren't taught about it, or maybe they were taught about it in a certain way, but a lot of times it's because they weren't taught about it. When they feel a desire for it, or when their husband starts to do it, they think it's wrong. They think it's a bad hashkafa. They think that it's bad education. They think that it's not proper. And I'm so happy to give you the confidence and the clarity to know that it is good and it is holy and it is what most likely is going to bring a woman to climax. So if you're struggling in this area, you get to look at, what am I pushing away? What am I not allowing myself to receive? What am I making these things mean that, has me holding back? And if there, yes, definitely, if someone's asking here, what if it doesn't happen even ever because it's not an ideal marriage? If there are issues in the marriage, it can get in the way of being able to let go and enjoy physically. It can get in the way of being able to communicate what you like and what you don't like. It can get in the way of opening yourself up. And that's why it's so important. That's why in anytime I talk about intimacy, physical pleasure, we can't just talk about intimacy on its own. It's always going to start out by looking at our relationship with ourselves, like I was saying last week, our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, right? As I keep mentioning, and also our relationship with our husbands, building our husbands. Actually, in my main program, my Absolutely Feminine program, where I work with women over the course of a year, building your relationship into a healthy, happy, connected, intimate space, the module on physical intimacy is way towards the end. Not because sex isn't important and not because I won't talk about it earlier. If someone has a question, I will answer it. But because there's so many pieces that can get in the way of it. There's so much that if we lay the foundation of a relationship where you feel safe, where you first feel safe with yourself, where you know what you like, you know what you feel, you know what you want, and then you can build a relationship where you feel safe with your husband, right? Where you don't feel resentment and negativity towards him all the time, where your relationship is thriving, where you can communicate and deal with issues together. Then talking about physical intimacy is something that is like it makes sense, right? Because we've built the foundations. We've worked through a lot of the stuff that we can otherwise be bringing into the bedroom that gets in the way, right? So, we don't like here we're talking about it on its own, but of course, if there are layers of resentment and frustration, they can be coming into the bedroom with us. Now, we can compartmentalize, which is also something I love to talk about. We can recognize that we can have issues in an area in our marriage and it doesn't have to be the totality of our marriage, right? And still be able to connect with each other as we deal with those issues. And that's why there is a full picture to building a marriage that where you do feel safe and can experience more pleasure. So I want to there are so many great questions that are coming in. We're going to have to we'll take our pause for now. Thank you so much for your amazing questions. Any questions that came into the chat, um, I will copy and paste them into my document so that I will hopefully answer them at another week. I do want to remind you all that although, I know this is a busy weekend, it's a long weekend in at least America and Canada, I know we are in the middle of Elul. There's so much that we can be working through and so much amazing so many amazing tools that we can use, even in the busyness of life, to be able to go through Elul and Rosh Hashanah feeling more connected, connected to Hashem, and yes, even connected to our husbands. All of the stuff we're talking about here is so important and so much a part of our intimacy also in our spiritual life, right? Because however we do one thing is how we do everything. So if we have certain fears, if we have certain questions, certain challenges, and the way that we're dealing with them or not dealing with them, the things that are coming up around them are likely coming up in other areas of our lives. And that's why I am always so happy to start working with women. I used to start my Absolutely Feminine program every year in this time period because I know the power of starting the deep work specifically before Rosh Hashanah. But now that Absolutely Feminine is open, women join at all different times. And I don't have it, there isn't a new group specifically right now. I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to have that experience of going into Elul, going into Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and then the new year, not just thinking about menus and meal prep and getting everything together physically, but feeling ready, not just standing there about to light candles and then going, oh my gosh, it's Rosh Hashanah, I haven't even thought about my goals. I don't even know what's holding me back. I'll just make the same promises I made again last year and feeling like I'm stuck. If you are interested in taking just a few hours for yourself to get unstuck and feel like you can move forward into the new year, please God, a good year, a year of Bisarot Tovot. If you're feeling like you need something, you need a refresh, you need a recharge, you need a spiritual reset, go ahead and check out the emails I've been sending. There'll be another one coming out tomorrow. You're also welcome to send me a message, and it would be so great to have you at the Elul. Um, I can't think of the word right now. The retreats, all those words, and I forgot the retreat word. The Elul retreat, which will be next Sunday, so it's less than a week from now. Such powerful shifts that happen every year. I'm excited for this year to invite everyone to be a part of it. You don't have to be a client. There is an investment, and it is an opportunity to be able to go into the year feeling ready and clear on what's getting in the way so you can move forward. So let me know if you have any questions on that. I look forward to seeing you next week, please God. And until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.